things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
All right, let's do this. Welcome to the Recher podcast. Happy, what day is it? I don't even know. It's December 16, 2025. It is a Tuesday. I hope everybody's doing well, whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. We'll clean the screen a little bit here. A little screen cleanage. That's how we do it. There we go. We're looking all bright and colorful and ready to go. I got my Jalen Brunson shirt on. We're ready for the NBA Cup final tonight between the Knicks and the Spurs. Jacked up about that one. Again, hope everybody's doing well, whether you're here in Tampa Bay or anywhere else watching this crazy show here on all social media platforms. I love you guys. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Follow me, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Let's keep this show on the road. And the only way we're going to do that is via the Super Chat. And also our partners, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, 813-244-0956. And of course, EverHealth. We'll have our EverHealth injury report on Thursday with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez for the final time in 2025. And on Friday, we will finish the year with our top 20 sports stars of Tampa Bay. I've already put out the texts, and I've gotten a ton of responses so far from guys like Roy Cummings, Rich Hollenberg, Aaron Jacobson, Mike Neighbors, Kyle Berger, Tommy Chuck, Ronnie Lane, Corey Long, Bailey Adams, Chris Torello. So some of the, a wide array of members of the Tampa Bay media to get their interpretation on who they think is the biggest sports stars in this city. And, as we get closer as the week goes on, we will go and we will discuss some of the people from yesteryear. And I'm looking at names like Nikita Kucherov. I'm looking at names like Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. Those are some of the bigger names. But what about like the new owner of the Rays, right? Patrick Zalupski, does he make the list? What about Alex Golish on the way out? Byron Brown, where does John Cooper? Maybe Todd Bowles, right? It's very interesting. That's what I love about this list, because you really never know what you're going to get when it comes to the answers of who these people think are the top sports stars in Tampa Bay. And it's not always the players. It's the front office members. It's the owners. Really, really good stuff. So that should be a wonderful show on Friday. Cannot wait. Guys, kill that like button, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or X, whatever the hell you want to call it. Kill that like button. We want to get you here on the program. If you want to contribute, questions, comments, concerns, leave them there at the bottom of the screen. And if you want to join in via the video chat, just click on the link right there in the chat. StreamYard.com/PGTDDT32IT. Benny loves lamp, and that's good to know. That is good to know. What do we have on the program today? We're going to start talking some Lightning and whatever the hell happened last night against the Florida Panthers. Then we will discuss the Buccaneers draft class from 2025 and their contributions to the season. Greg Wyshynski from ESPN is going to join us at 12:30 today to talk Lightning, to talk all kinds of hockey, and, of course, to talk some John Cena as well, the farewell. 1 o'clock, we will get into the NBA Cup tonight, the championship game between the Knicks and the Spurs, and why everybody that's hating on it needs to just chill the F out. Relax. Everybody's like, oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, man, what are you going to hang up a mini bat? Yeah, so who cares? It's competition, man. People are so I'll get into it later. I don't want to get into it now. Open up that can of worms. And then at 1:15, the Sage, Ira Kaufman, will join us here on the program. Joe, Bucs fan. He was in the Raise the Flags documentary. What a great guy. And not many better people to talk Buccaneers than with him. David Terry, not a good night for our Bolts. You got that right. Never had a chance. Fire Todd Bowles, 7 seasons of awful pass defense. Doesn't want any part of Todd Bowles anymore. Yeah, Greg, sorry I missed you, buddy. I hope you had a good time here. Genuinely going to have Hagel start wearing a Guardian cap or something for these games. Go Knicks. Football almost every day this week. Gotta love it. Of course, we have the Cure Bowl tomorrow. Good luck to our USF Bulls. Trent Cooper deserves an Emmy for the Bucs 50th video. I did shed a couple of tears. Fantastic so far. I got to finish it later on today. I need to see somebody get their ass beat on the 27th when we play these a-holes again. Yeah, I mean, let's just get right into it. You know, that game really bothered me last night in a multitude of ways. But whether John Cooper likes to admit it or not, whether anybody else on the Lightning want to admit it or not, there is still a cloud hanging over their heads when it comes to the Florida Panthers. They don't know how to deal with this situation. Because the Florida Panthers don't want to engage in any of those fisticuffs right now when they don't have Matthew Tkachuk in their lineup, because I feel like he's the guy that kind of stirs the drink. He brings them into the fight. The Lightning don't know how to handle themselves. They have no idea what to do. And they're just waiting for something to happen. They're waiting for the volcano to explode, and it hasn't. There are some skirmishes at the end of plays, but nothing like over the top, nothing like we saw in the preseason. So, I mean, you see the frustration from Jake Gensel last night, and he just ended up just throwing the gloves down and just started punching Niko Mikkola, a guy that was a foot taller than him, because it was just frustration built up. First NHL fight for Jake Gensel. But I did not like how the Lightning approached that game yesterday. I didn't like that you have guys like Curtis Douglas and Scott Sabrin, and Scott Sabrin and Brandon Halverson just got sent down to the AHL. So we'll see what that means for guys like Andrei Vasilevsky, for guys like Ryan McDonough. But through two periods, no hits from Curtis Douglas, no hits from Scott Sabrin. These are supposed to be your two physical guys on the fourth line. Nick Paul had 4. He's the guy that's playing on the line with you. I didn't like that at all. If these guys are on the roster, they need to be doing what they were brought here to do. And they're not. And that's a problem. And yes, have the Lightning played better? Yes. Are they dealing with injuries? Yes, I get it. But in a game like last night, way too many odd man rushes. And I didn't think that you got to play, even if you're not fighting these guys, you gotta understand that you have to ratchet up the intensity. You have to make sure that no matter what, you're taking the game to them. And we'll talk to Double E about this tomorrow. And again, our show, I haven't announced this yet, but I have an event tomorrow that I have to do for a local company. So the show, we will be on air, but we're going to be late tomorrow. I think we're going to start at either 1 or 1:30 tomorrow. So we'll be, yeah. And Eddie, I know you were messing with me, buddy, on Twitter yesterday. You're all good, my buddy. Thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Eddie, I hope you had a good time last night, my friend. I know you were just messing. Everybody else was sticking up. I appreciate my Lightning brethren out there. I knew you were messing with me, pal. Hope you enjoyed the game. But tomorrow's show is going to start at either 1:30. Eric Erlinson will join us at 2 o'clock tomorrow. But I have an event locally that I have to go to. I can't get out of it. But we will have a show. But it'll just be a little bit later tomorrow. But I was talking to Double E about this in the press box last night, and he goes, you have Scott Sabrin and Curtis Douglas on this team for preventative measures. And I said, I understand that, and I don't disagree with that, but I want everybody to listen to me when I say this. When you're focused on reacting, when you're focused on worrying about somebody else's what they're doing and not imposing your will on somebody else, that's a very, very scary proposition. Because you have to make sure that you're imposing your style of play on somebody else, not reacting to what they do. I don't like that at all. And he's not wrong, but it kind of made me think about it. You had these two guys. You've kept these two guys with this team. And for what? To be ready for that physical play that Florida brings you? I mean, it hasn't been. The first game was tense, not nearly as much in this last game last night. And then what? We're just sitting there, not playing good hockey, and those guys are out there kind of skating around. They're not even hitting anybody until the third period. You can't win like that. I still think, and I put this on Twitter last night, and I put it on my Recher's Rapid Reaction. People didn't like it, and I hope you guys understand that I don't care. The Lightning are still miles behind the Florida Panthers. Everybody wants to talk about our injuries. Their two best players are not playing. Sasha Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk are not in the lineup. No excuse. No excuse for the odd man rushes. No excuse for Nikita Kucherov playing as poorly as he did last night. Not good. Not good at all. And John Cooper didn't even want to talk about him. We'll mention the Hagel hit here in a second. But that was not a game that made me feel all warm and fuzzy about the Lightning. Great to see Max Kerja score a goal. I like that they were able to kind of fight back and get another goal. Carter Verhaeghe's goal kind of just ruined everything. But they lost that game when you give up 2 goals and on 2 shots, shorthanded, odd man rushes. Like you were stuck in mud last night. Again, I just don't feel like the Lightning know how to play the Florida Panthers. Not right now. They don't get it. They don't quite understand what it's going to take for them to be able to beat that team right now. No juice, no energy, no nothing for the first, and John Cooper said, he was like, well, after we gave it the 2 goals, we were kind of, putting pressure on Bobrovsky, and they were, but it was more skill than will. They got skill players out there, and I think that's where you saw maybe a little bit of the disparity in talent with losing 2 of their top guys up front. But it wasn't like they were hitting everything that was coming. It wasn't like they were scaring the Florida Panthers. They played better, but you can't play like that and think you're going to beat the Florida Panthers. It's not going to happen. Sorry. And that's without Barkov, and that's without Matthew Tkachuk. That is worrisome to me. They got to find something. They got to play like their hair is on fire. They need a little Baker Mayfield. And I didn't like Jonas Johansson's game either. I don't think he was sharp at all. And last night, and Phil Esposito said this to me, he goes, this was one of those games where you really noticed the guys that they didn't have in the lineup. You noticed that there was no McDonough, there was no Hedman, there was no Chernak. Like you could tell there was a little bit of a difference there. Got to get Dominic James back. He's another guy. But I think it's the team as a whole. I think it's the mentality. I think they're a little stuck in neutral when it comes to playing the Florida Panthers, and it's something that they have to kind of shake up and do differently. Now, stop me if you've heard this before. The Florida Panthers take a run at Brandon Hagel. Clear elbow to the head. Hagel gets knocked out of the game. It doesn't return. No penalty called. No further discipline. I just, when is this going to stop? When is this going to end? And this wasn't one of those things where you hit a guy and on the follow through your elbow comes up. Like you can literally see on the video, Seth Jones leading with his elbow. No matter what happens, I am going to stop this guy, whatever it takes, with my right arm up in the air, my left arm up in the air, whatever the hell it was. When is it going to stop? When are we going to get to a point where these hits are taken out of the game? These guys that are headhunting. It doesn't even try to hide it. And that's another reason why I was not thrilled. Like, nobody goes after Seth Jones after that at any point. I don't care what the league says. I know the fines and Cooper got fined and the league got fined, but what are you going to do? You have to keep clawing back. You got to keep fighting back. You got to do something. Because if not, you're just going to continue to get pushed around. And that's what happened last night. You got outskilled, you got outwilled, and for all the good vibes, and you look at where they are in the standings, I don't really care. Because this Tampa Bay Lightning team has told us that, hey, we're trying to get into a position where we can beat the Florida Panthers. Now, after watching that game last night, do you guys feel comfortable about that? Do you guys feel like the gap has been closed? That was my biggest concern going into the season, why I wasn't so bullish on the Lightning. I don't think they did enough to close the gap between them and the Florida Panthers. Do you? After watching that game last night? I don't. You watch this team, and things have gone pretty well despite all the injuries. But last night was a litmus test. Last night was a measuring stick, and they failed. They didn't start on time. They gave up way too many odd man rushes. Nikita Kucherov may have been the worst guy on the ice last night. Forget about the best. And you didn't impose your will on the Florida Panthers. And then, once again, Brandon Hagel gets hit. No retaliation, no nothing. Something's got to change with this. If the league isn't doing it, you thought that doing something in the preseason was going to make an impact and make a difference. It hasn't. Nothing has changed. You're still playing second fiddle to your little brother in South Florida. Sorry. Curtis Douglas and Scott Sabrin, no hits through 40 minutes of the game. Why the hell are you out there then? I don't understand. Why are those guys out there if they're not imposing their will, bringing a physical presence? Call up Connor Geeky and Dylan Duke to score then. This passive, I was going nuts yesterday. I felt like I had more energy in the, you know what it felt like? It felt like watching the freaking Bucs. Watching the first 2 periods of that game last night of the Lightning was like watching the Bucs. Some good plays, some good skill stuff. But as far as when the going gets tough, the tough get going, when it comes to the energy, when it comes to the juice, when it comes to we're going to have pride and we are not going to let people come into our building and win and play their style. Where is that? God, it would freaking, we're not seeing that from any of our teams in Tampa Bay. The Sun, the Rowdies, the Rays, the Lightning, or the Bucs. None of those 5 teams are protecting home court, protecting home field, protecting home ice. I'm calling out every freaking team in this city. This is Team Tampa Bay. This is Champa Bay. The Sun, the Rowdies, the Rays, the Bucs, the Lightning have a little pride that when people come to our area, it is not going to be a vacation. People are coming down here and enjoying themselves as it's terrible weather across the country. Hey, it's 60, 70 down here. This is great. Hey, it's not a hard place to play. This should be a pain in the ass to come down here. This should be a house of horrors for the opposition. People in the NFC South should not go to Raymond James Stadium and think that it's a walk in the park. Instead, the New Orleans Saints, even in crappy weather, they look like they enjoyed it more than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they play in a dome. And then here comes the Atlanta Falcons on Thursday Night Football. Prime time. The lights are the brightest. All these dignitaries in the house. What happens? Nothing. No sense of pride whatsoever. Then you look at Benchmark International Arena last night. The Tampa Bay Lightning. And we're not feeding into this narrative. We're not trying to cause something that's not there. We're not trying to drum up some BS type of storyline. But it's just there's got to be some kind of retaliation. You can't let this keep happening. And it happens again last night with Brandon Hagel. What are y'all doing to change this? What are you doing to fix it? The Lightning have lost 8 games at home. 8. You know how many games Colorado has lost at home in regulation? 0. You know how many games Vegas has lost at home? 4. How about Carolina? 5. Those are the other first place teams in hockey. 8 games lost at home. The Tampa Bay Lightning are tied for the most home losses. I want to say in the Eastern. No, the Rangers have 9, but their season they stink. The Lightning are tied for the second most losses at home with 8. Think about that. Put that on your social media platforms right now. The Tampa Bay Lightning are tied for the second most losses at home in the National Hockey League. Not good. Not good enough. I just, the excuses and all this other shit, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it at all. They've got to be better. You got to play with a little more grit, a little more sandpaper. You got to do a little something. Just letting this, you're just rolling over to Florida and letting them come into your house and crap on the living room carpet. I don't get it, man. I don't understand. No bueno. No bueno. All right. Before we get to Greg Wyshynski from ESPN, I wanted to discuss the Bucs 2025 draft class, because now that we hear that Zion McCollum looks like he's going to be done for the year, Benjamin Morrison is going to have to step up. He has been a healthy scratch the last couple of weeks. And you look at what we've seen this year from these guys and how they've been able to help out. And we'll start with Emeka Egbuka. And Emeka to start the season was fantastic. He really was. You're looking at a guy that was pretty much the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But recently, it hasn't been the same. It hasn't been the same. And when you look at the game logs and you look at what he's been able to do, I mean, he had in games 4 and 5, he had 101, 163 yards. And that loss to New England, he had $115. But in the last 5 games for the Buccaneers, 40 yards, 32 yards, 42 yards, 15 yards, and 64 yards. I mean, 870 for the year, 6 touchdowns, which is great, but he's got 0 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks. He certainly hit a rookie wall, but, I mean, hopefully you don't have to rely on him as much. Now they have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, you have Jalen McMillan back, but, okay, decent production from the rookie. The second-round pick in Benjamin Morrison, I think, has been he's on that next list of second-round picks that have not worked out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There was a lot of things that I brought up before the season, and people were, and I'm asking, is this a problem? Is this an issue? And people kept saying, no, everything should be fine. Well, what about the linebacker depth? They just signed Anthony Walker, the guy that they cut. No, that was fine. What about Benjamin Morrison? Nobody's worried about drafting this guy. They drafted him knowing that he had injuries. You don't get healthier as you get older. The great Ian Beckles told us that. And other than like Steph Curry, who had terrible ankles to start his NBA career, like who else has gotten healthier? Who else has really beaten injury concerns in college and then come to the pros and then has been, a modicum of health? I mean, look at Michael Penix Jr. Tears his ACL. He's out for the year. Right? Is Benjamin Morrison going to work out? I don't know, but they're going to rely on him heavily down the stretch now that Zion McCollum is out for the year. Do you trust it? I sure as hell don't. They were attacking that young man a couple of weeks ago. I have zero to little faith that he's going to be able to contribute in a big way in 2 of these last 3 games. And I know going in as the season went on, everybody was excited about, wow, you played Miami between Carolina. Bro, Miami is fighting. They lost last night, but they were on a 4-game winning streak. That is a team that fired their GM. They lost Tyreek Hill. They still really don't, I think, know what the future is when it comes to Tua. They traded away Jalen Phillips. You look at the guys that they have on their team, like that is a team that is grinding. I don't want to play them if I'm the Buccaneers. They're showing a lot more heart than Tampa Bay. Jacob Parrish, the 3rd-round pick out of Kansas State. Listen, he's a rookie, but I don't think when you watch his play, he's one of the problems. I think he's one of the guys this year that have been given everything he's gotten. He's played inside. He's played outside. He tackles in space. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but you want to talk about a guy that's playing with heart. I've got no issues with what I've seen from Jacob Parrish. Probably my favorite pick out of everybody in the draft class. David Walker, hurt. David Walker didn't play at all this year because he tore his ACL before the season started. Elijah Roberts, we haven't heard too much from him. I like what I've seen from him rotating in on the defensive line. But again, this is your 5th round pick. And then Tez Johnson, the 7th round pick. Some good things from Tez, but we've seen him catch an earful from Baker Mayfield, knowing that he's probably incorrectly running some routes, and you knew his game time was going to be cut in half, if not more, with all of these guys returning, slowly but surely. Remember, at a time, it was just a Mecca, and then it was Sterling Shepard, and then it was Tez Johnson and Cam Johnson. Now you've gotten Chris Godwin back. You've gotten Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan back. So we're not going to probably see too much from Tez other than a couple of gadget plays and maybe on special teams. But we've been lauding a guy like Jason Light for the job that he's done as far as his draft picks go. But who is going to help the team the most this weekend? You need to win this game against the Carolina Panthers. Which of the rookies are going to help you the most? Is it going to be Emeka? Is it going to be Benjamin Morrison? Is it going to be Jacob Parrish? Is it going to be Tez Johnson, Elijah Roberts? It might be Morrison. But how scary is that? Because we've already seen a couple of times this year when they put him out there. Remember the whole saga with him splitting time with Jamel Dean. What's the deal with that? Is it financially driven? Is it because you were worried about Jamel Dean? I mean, this is a guy early on in the season was putting up Pro Bowl and All-Pro numbers. And you're splitting time with a guy in Benjamin Morrison who was the last 2 weeks a guy that was a healthy scratch. Like, that's another part of the equation that that you don't hear a lot of people talk about. You want to put that on Jason Light. You want to put that on Todd Bowles, whatever. Somebody's got to answer for that. You thought it was a good idea to take a guy out of the lineup in the middle of a game that was playing some of the best football of his career for a rookie that you didn't even have out there the last 2 weeks. What's going on here? Those are decisions that are indefensible. Those are decisions that you look at and you go, even if you're the most staunch supporter of a guy like Todd Bowles, I just don't get it. You want to talk about financially? Fine. But are you honestly really doing that at the expense of trying to win games for your team? That doesn't make much sense. That doesn't sound like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's so many uncharacteristic things that we've seen Tampa Bay do as the year has gone on. There's no surprise that is coincided with the team not playing as well. Mike Evans coming off the field murmuring about 3rd and 28. These guys hightailing it out of the locker room before having to answer to the media. And we see Rachaad White now posting stuff with Jaden Daniels. Bro, these things happen for a reason. Right? It's just really strange that these guys, when it comes to these professional athletes, they don't understand like the ramifications of their actions. They don't understand that you put these things out there and people are going to talk about them. You could say you don't care. All right, fine. Well, your naivete does not exempt you from criticism. You have to understand where we're at, understand what you say and what you do. It matters. It carries weight. And we saw the video yesterday of Ryan Clark blaming Bo Nix for Micah Parsons' injury. And he goes, well, I'm not blaming him, but he's the reason why. And I'm like, why do you have to phrase it that way? Knowing that we live in the world that we live in where people clip things and like, it just doesn't make sense. People don't think before they act. People don't think before they speak. It's mind-boggling. Take a breath. Understand what you do has ramifications. And Rachaad White, if you want to go in, you want to start changing your IG as your team is struggling and they're looking for leaders, and you want to be one of the first guys into the locker room and one of the first guys out of the door. And Rachaad started doing that last year. And it's kind of funny because Rachaad White was the guy that was going around doing the media tour before last season. And he was going to the radio station. He was doing all these public events. And then as soon as Bucky Irving started to play more, what happened? You stopped seeing Rashad in the locker room. He was the first guy out of there. You don't really hear much and see much from Rashad much anymore, do you? I don't know. That is not a sign of positive things going on in that Buccaneers locker room. Now, I don't want to ever be one of those guys that say Todd Bowles is losing in their locker room. You don't know, because guys are not going to be happy when they're losing. There's going to be frustration. You can't assume that. Well, you can, but it is pure speculation. But I'm going to tell you, as the guy that interviewed Rachaad White last year, and the guy that met the guy a couple of times, he came in studio with Zach and I think twice, doing all these things, doing football camps, and he was always in the locker room first year or two, always willing to talk. And then as soon as Bucky Irving started to get some run and started to get some shine, Rashad was gone. And the first time it was like, oh, Rashad doesn't feel well and blah, blah. And it's like, okay. And then I go back to this past weekend, or I go back to this past Thursday, where we're sitting there, and as soon as the freaking ball goes through the uprights, Bucky, Rashad, Sean Tucker, Mike Evans, boom, 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 boom. It was like, whoa. I didn't even know if there was still time left on the clock. Crazy, man. That's where we're at with the Bucs right now. And after watching what the Lightning did at Benchmark International Arena last night, it's a rough go when it comes to our teams in Tampa Bay. All right, let's bring him in. It's our good pal, NHL on ESPN's Greg Wyshynski. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Still getting used to Benchmark.
Dude, I said Amelie before.
Amelie was sort of just like it. You know, I feel like I have an intimate knowledge of that arena, having been there so many times in the last decade. I also started to go kayaking on the channel when I would go and cover Lightning playoff runs. So I remember seeing that arena from like a very different vantage point as well, from the water. And also my friend who works for the NHL is named Amelie Benjamin, and we always used to goof on her that it's her arena. And so, yeah, it's going to take a while to get that out of my system.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And she was actually covering the Panthers Lightning series last year for NHL. And she was like with us the entire time. And we were talking about the name change. And we had like this little group chat, like, should we send these letters to her house? Like, should she put them in the back? Like, who else is going to use these things?
Is she Benchmark Benjamin now? I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen her, so I got to ask her. She's one of the most talented writers, of course, in the game. What did you make of last night, man? And this whole thing with the Lightning and the Panthers? We're still waiting for the bubble over. Like, I think Matthew Tkachuk being hurt kind of takes a little bit of the steam out of it. But Hagel gets hit again last night. You know, I talked to Coop, and Coop was he gave me one of these after the game last night. He's just like, he doesn't even know what to say anymore about it, Greg. Like, what do you make of that whole thing from afar?
I mean, they clearly target him, right? I mean, as far as, you know, every game that they play in the Battle of Florida, it seems like that's the case. And again, like last night wasn't one of those games where I really made time to watch it, mainly because sometimes finding things on NHL Network could be a challenge for those of us that are outside of your market.
Right.
One might say that YouTube TV doesn't offer the opportunity to do so. So I have to sometimes find other ways in which to watch these games. That's neither here nor there. But I mean, like, you know, obviously the Tkachuk not being there, the Lightning being banged up, it just didn't feel like the heavyweight boxing match that we want from this rivalry, but it certainly had the usual bits of animosity and what have you. So I don't know, the hit. I honestly only saw the one angle of the hit last night from Jones, and I don't really know what to make of it. Obviously, player safety didn't think there was enough there to warrant anything. It did seem like Jones was kind of like lunging for him a bit on the hit, but I'd have to probably see a couple more angles on it to really formulate any you know, concrete opinion on what it is. But I also haven't heard from many sources today explaining why it wasn't worth at least a hearing, I guess.
Yeah, no hearing. I think 2 hearings so far this year, and it's just the thing. He was like chicken wing. He was like leading. It was just so, and it looks so much worse in slow motion. But he's like leading with the elbow so much. I mean, he looked like Lex Luger, the Lex Express back in the day when he was trying to take out Yokozuna. Right? It was crazy.
And that's why I always try to like get some clarification on this stuff. Right. I mean, because you know, there's some stuff that always looks more terrible than it is. And listen, this comes as a shock to no one, but neither one of us have played in the National Hockey League. And, I think back to the Mikko Rantanen situation last month, where he has that situation with Alex Romanov, the Islanders, and he puts his hands on his back, and Romanov crashes into the boards, and Patrick Roy's cursing him out, and we're all like, "Oh my God, he's going to get 100 games." And then it turns out, oh no, actually he tripped over another Islanders defenseman, and he's not going to even have a hearing for it. So I always kind of like to hear a little bit more from those who have played the game and maybe are involved with player safety to understand the nuances in these things. Because obviously, for any of us watching the highlight last night, we're all kind of like, oh, how did that not result in a hearing?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I wanted to get your opinion on the Lightning players in the Olympics. I think we know Jake Gensel is going to be representing Team USA. No surprise there. We know Braden Point. I think he's lucky that he was one of the first guys, because he has not played all that great so far this season. But I want to ask you about Hagel and Cirelli, because everybody and their mother, you see all these different things of like all these. When you see these things go on social media, it's the 12 best forwards. Like they never build the best team. It's always like, let's take the 12 top Canadian scorers and fit them all in there, regardless of, there might be a penalty kill situation, right? You never know. What do you think about Hagel and Cirelli making this team? And I know it's tough because we've had these discussions about Tom Wilson and Celebrini and Bedard, but man, this is the number one PK pair in John Cooper's eyes. Julian Brisebois is involved in this process as well, and they helped you win a gold in the Four Nations. What do you think about Hagel and Cirelli's chances of making Team Canada?
Well, as an American, I don't want them anywhere near Team Canada.
Me and you both.
Yeah,
you should be there when I talk smack to Cooper and Brisebois. It's hilarious. Yeah, I'm like, you guys are going down.
They should definitely like take guys that are in their mid-40s, really make it a nostalgia tour.
Definitely.
I think what's going in their favor, obviously, is who the coach is. I mean, the fact is that when you see these teams constructed, usually they're constructed with a little bit of input from the coach, and in Coop's case, there's a level of trust that I think he has with those players on the defensive side of things. Overall, I think the Canadian roster has some interesting decisions to make with regard to a player like Tom Wilson, with regard to a player like Connor Bedard, who now we know is a separated shoulder, and how does that impact his availability going forward? I think Celebrini has probably made the team. Once you start getting the rub from Sid Crosby, you're probably good to go on Team Canada. But those two guys, I think, serve an important utility, and in both cases could also contribute offensively as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because like you look at all these lines, and let's not forget during the Four Nations, like Braden Point played really well with Connor McDavid, and it's not easy to be able to play with a guy that's that fast, and he understands that game. So it'll be interesting to see how that entire thing shakes out. What did you make of the Quinn Hughes trade, man? I mean, that was somebody asked me before he got traded, what do you think is going to happen with the Hughes? And I'm like, they're going to play together at some point, somewhere, in some form or fashion. They're going to play in the NHL at some point together. But I kind of like what Vancouver did. They looked at where they were at in the standings. They're like, hey, let's go get Zeev. Let's get a pick. Let's get a couple other guys. I think both teams probably made out. What do you think?
I think that's probably true from the transactional point of view. Yeah. I think the problem for Vancouver is the sins of the past,
right?
In the sense that they did some things leading up to the trade that were completely counterintuitive to a team that should have recognized, and by their own admission, had recognized that Quinn Hughes wasn't going to resign. And so my friend Rachel Krychek and I wrote this big story on ESPN.com today about the Quinn Hughes trade, the timeline, the offers, the whole thing. It takes you really behind the scenes of how everything went down. And one of the things that has come out in the last few days, which is kind of mind-blowing, is that Jim Rutherford, the president of the Canucks, and Patrick Alvin, the GM of the Canucks, both say it's been at least a year at a minimum that they've had this idea that Quinn Hughes wasn't going to extend with them. And so in that year, they re-signed Brock Besser to this big contract. They re-signed Connor Garland to a contract that hasn't even started yet. They re-signed Thatcher Demko. They name Adam Foote the head coach because he's like one of Quinn's guys. Like they did all of these things in service of trying to almost throw a Hail Mary to keep the guy, even though they already had an inkling that he wasn't going to stay. And so they've done all these things that I think really monkey wrench the rebuild that they now want to do. But the return they got from Minnesota on the trade, Marco Rossi, Zibuya, and Ogren, and then the other first round pick, like it's really good. I think it's a much better package than other teams were offering up. But it kind of like comes at a time when they've already should have been rebuilding for the last year, but haven't been.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I was just looking at the standings, and the Lightning lose last night, 8th time in regulation they've lost at home, which is tied for second most in the NHL, behind, of course, the New York Rangers, who can't win anything at home. I was watching in the press box last night as the return videos for Chris Kreider, and it was like this long thing, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And then Jacob Trouba gets like 30 seconds. Like, thanks for being the captain. I was like, Espo, guess what I just watched? He goes, I don't care. I'm like, all right, Phil, thanks, pal. What do you make of the Rangers and what they're going to do going forward? Because you look at them in the standings. You got Panarin, that's a pending guy. Mika Zibanejad gets scratched last night for whatever. What do you?
Well, they said he was late for him. They said he was late for a meeting, but
that's train. Like,
yeah, maybe he didn't want to get on the Trouba train at some point last night. I don't know. Who knows?
Where do you go with those guys? Because they bring in Gavrikov. It's just I watched this roster, and I was actually home for Thanksgiving, and we watched the Lightning Rangers game, and my brother's looking at me, and I'm telling him, I go, watch the Lightning's third line of Gord Girgensons and Pontus Holmberg, and watch who they match up with. And he's watching. He goes, they're going up against Lafreniere, Zibanejad, and JT Miller. And I go, watch where they spend the time during their shift. And almost every shift was in the Rangers defensive zone. And I'm like, that is a bad sign when 3 of your best players are getting outworked by third line now for the Lightning, but that'll probably be their fourth line when everybody gets healthy. Yeah. How do they fix this entire thing with Mike Sullivan and the crew going forward? Because they look like they're so much farther away than they were a couple of years ago.
They are, but I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. They've got some real good young players, some that haven't even made an impact yet. I'm a big Will Cooley fan. He's kind of inherited Chris Kreider's role on the team. I think Gabe Perreault is going to be a great player in this league, with some maturation and NHL experience. The problem with the Rangers is that they came into the season with a team that I think was challenged in a lot of positions depth wise, especially defensively, beyond Adam Fox, who I think is still injured, and Gavrikov. And so, like, I didn't really have expectation beyond them maybe sneaking in as a wild card for them to really do anything this year. Mm-hmm. But again, like you said, they can make a decision on Panarin whether they want to extend him or let him walk. They're going to continue to transition away from the previous core. This is probably Zibanejad's last season there. They're now the team of JT Miller, for better or worse, and then also have some younger players that can populate the lineup. So it's a transitionary time for them. I still think that when you have Igor Shecherkin, that gives you a puncher's chance of making the playoffs. But what they are is kind of what I expected them to be. And then, they can kind of regroup and figure out what they want to do with what should be a pretty significant amount of cap flexibility in the summer.
JT Miller, for better or worse, I couldn't have said that better myself.
Well, I mean, the worst thing for the Rangers right now is that they're mediocre, and now they put the captaincy on a guy who, whenever a team is mediocre, starts becoming sulky McSullpants. And so, we want our team to be, JT Miller to be the pace setter for our team. Well, that's great if you're good, but if you're bad, then he's the worst guy to possibly be your leader, and that's what they're experiencing right now.
Trust me, I know him from down here, and some of the stories we'll talk about that next time we get up on that stuff. And I keep telling my brother and my cousin, diehard Ranger fans, I go, this is not going to work out. It's not going to work out. You got in an argument. You had an issue with a Swede, with Pettersson. Like, who argues with Swedish people? What the hell's wrong with you? What about your Devils, man? I mean, I saw something the other day. Dougie Hamilton and Andre Palat, they're listening on offers for those guys. I mean, big right-handed shot defenseman, a multi-cup winner. Like, what's going on there?
Well, in both cases, that's just they were trying to get the salary cap flexibility that they needed in order to trade for Quinn Hughes and then eventually extend him. As every Devil fan knows, when it's 2027 and Quinn Hughes' current contract is up, Palat's a free agent, so you don't have to worry about that deal anymore. And Dougie Hamilton will be in the last year of his contract. So if you wanted to buy out that in order to use that salary cap space for Quinn Hughes, that's a pretty tidy bit of business as well. But again, to do the trade now, first of all, I don't think that their package, which essentially was Dawson Mercer, Simone Nemec, a first-round pick, and then maybe another prospect, was as good as Minnesota's. So that's sort of one problem. But the main problem is that because of the I think it's like a dozen players on the Devils roster that Tom Fitzgerald, their general manager, has given trade protection, including Palat, which is to me one of the worst deals that they've made, due respect to him and what he did in Tampa. Like, he's done nothing in New Jersey, and they gave him a full no move clause. They couldn't get the Quinn Hughes thing done because of that. So, like, just like we talked about with Vancouver, it's like the sins of the past, right? Like, the decisions the Devils have made under Fitzgerald in the last few years led to the inability to really close the deal on Quinn Hughes now, and now they're hoping that he doesn't fall in love with Minnesota. He seems pretty happy there already, and that he does eventually hit free agency.
Yeah, the worst thing for New Jersey, if he loves there, or they're like, oh well, Detroit's kind of nice. You know what I mean? Like, they start doing something like that. That's not great.
Well, the real fear for New Jersey, is that he falls in love with Minnesota. He signs there long term, and then in 2030, Jack just goes to Minnesota. Now, the big tinfoil hat theory that's bouncing around the NHL right now, ever since Quinn went to Minnesota, is he extends until 2030 with the Wild and tries to win a cup with what is a pretty good team out there.
Yeah.
And then him and Jack are both free agents in the same summer. And then while most of us would be like, oh man, LeBron, the decision, this is going to be awesome, they just immediately sign it in Detroit. Like, the Hughes family lives in Michigan. They both, I think, have like, they're friends with Dylan Larkin. Like, it makes total sense for them both to go to an original 6 team in the state in which their family lives. And then Detroit trades for Luke, and they all unite there. So now, again, like, that, maybe it's New Jersey pessimism that we're all trying to figure out ways for this not to happen in 2 years. But there's definitely realities in the multiverse in which it doesn't happen.
Last hockey question before we finish with John Cena. Steven Stamkos, 4 goals the other night. He's inching closer to 600. Want to talk about no move clauses? It's a topic of conversation. It comes up once, twice, 3 times a week. Lightning power play, still not great. Oliver Bjorkstrand can't hit the broadside of a barn. He's got 4 goals in 33 games. It's one of the most awkward things in the NHL that nobody talks about. Oliver Bjorkstrand on the Lightning. If you get a chance, when you just watch him, he just looks like he has no idea what's going on.
That's a bummer, because that was such a shrewd bit of business last year.
It is, and it's just like he had this incredible injury where it was just so terrible, where his organs were like malfunctioning. It was jacked up, and he comes in this year, he's completely healthy, and they've played him on all 4 lines, and he just can't do anything. He doesn't shoot the puck. It's crazy. What do you make of Steven Stamkos there in Nashville? Is there any way? There's this horror story down here that there's a way that the Panthers will try to bring him in. I actually saw a story a couple weeks ago about possibly Jersey being in on Stamkos. We know what the business is with the $8 million a year. Is there any chance he gets moved this year? Because it's just like, you got to think he's got a little bit left with that shot, but man, it is a hefty price tag.
I mean, if he keeps shooting the way he's been shooting, there's a chance. And I think the Devils probably engaged more on Ryan O'Reilly than they have on Steven Stamkos when it comes to the Predators. A couple of things to play here. First of all is obviously the no move, and then also the salary. And I think the expectation has been for the Predators to get any decent return on Stamkos, they'd have to retain, and that's retaining a bit, because he's got years after this one. But like. Yeah, I talked to Barry Trotz a month ago, and he said, look, there's going to be a window in which we're going to figure out if we need to like start the process on moving some of these veterans, or we're going to turn this thing around. And they're 7-3 in their last 10. And like they're not in it. Like, they're 5 points out of the wild card, but that is a hell of a lot closer than they were a week and a half ago. So on the one hand, you have Stamkos proving that he still has something left in the tank. On the other hand, you have the Predators all of a sudden becoming a little bit more relevant. So it'll be interesting to see how Trotz plays this thing, because, you don't want to like suffocate something that might be happening, because we're 2 years removed from the Predators going on a bender and making the playoffs. But at the same time, you don't want to, like, if you have a chance to unburden yourself of that contract, you probably have to do it.
Yeah, it's funny. Go on a bender to make the playoffs. Shea, Marchessault, Stamkos, O'Reilly. It's like, oh, wow, they're taking that next step. And then, all right, before I let you go, I was going to title your thing on the bottom there, your lower third, as the last real New Jersey Nets fan, because you are. The John Cena thing, your take on the entire year, how it ended with Gunther, and where they go from here.
Oh, the year was a waste. I mean, like we've talked about before, how disastrous the heel turn was, and ill-conceived. And I know that they've all tried to like retcon it as being like, well, we thought The Rock and Travis Scott were going to be part of this, and then they weren't. And what were we supposed to do? I don't know, something better than what he ended up with. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
anything else?
So my problem is not him losing. I think he should lose. I think every great wrestler that retires should go out on their back.
Right.
My problem with it is like he should not lose by meekly tapping on one's arm like he's petting a kitten, and then going out with a giant smile on his face.
Right.
That was the problem, and so like I understand the dynamic of you put over Gunther as the guy who made John Cena tap for the first time in forever, and that whole thing. But I think you could accomplish that just by having him beat Cena or having him retire Cena, or even having it be like you and I probably remember the Bret Hart Stone Cold match where Stone Cold passes out in his own blood, and that becomes like one of the single most iconic moments of his career. Like you could have gone that direction too, where the guy who for the last 25 years is telling you don't give up, and you're buying the t-shirts to say don't give up, doesn't give up. Like that would be probably the thing you want to do in his final match, but alas. And that's why you get the crowd chanting for Vince when Triple H hits the ring.
Yeah, think about that. He's getting more of the booze than Gunther. Yeah, that would have been great if he choked him out and just held it, and he was like choking him out. He was turning blue or something.
What did you think? Did you like it?
I liked it because it pissed me off. Because I think that's the point, right? The point is that like it's supposed to make you feel something. And I was of the same belief. Hey, he's just gonna be like this. The third arm drops down, old school, and that's it. I had a similar thought to you with the Stone Cold thing, with they had the double turn there. But when he tapped out, I was like, oh, that sucks. But it made me mad. And I like that because I like that I didn't see that coming. And we get smart to it because you watch it, right? And it's hard not to think like, here comes somebody, here comes the surprise, and you love it because it's wrestling, but I wish I was a kid at times, right? Oh shit, here's Stone Cold, like here's the glass breaking, like so I guess I like it, and I like that he came out last night and he called him a bitch. So I like that because that's what you want. Because I was there when Roman Reigns with the Undertaker in Orlando, and then the next night at Monday Night Raw, and that booing was crazy.
That was nuclear.
This is my yard now. I think that's all Gunther should have done. I made John Cena give up and leave, but I like what they did.
I just think that if you were gonna have him tap, it could have been booked better. Like the
way
he tapped in that match, it almost felt like, okay, I'm bored.
Yeah,
just want to get out of here.
It was almost like it was out of kayfabe. Like, oh, this isn't real. Like that's the one part struggle. Look like you're struggling, like you're getting choked out. It was like, oh, here's some corny wrestling move that doesn't hurt. I'm just gonna tap out because this is what I'm supposed to do.
The one meme that it gave us though that I thought was hilarious is somebody on Reddit took that image of Gunther's arms wrapped around Cena's head and then compared it to the image of Quado from Total Recall. The little monster that emerges from the guy's tummy.
Oh my god!
And you look at them both, you're like, wow, that's art but making sports right there.
Oh my gosh, that is the way it goes, man. Oh, Lightning jerseys. What do you think? Stadium Series.
I'm one of the few that loves them.
It's not bad. It's not.
I went to my people like when these jerseys were gonna come out. I wrote about them when they were released. And I'm like, I think these are great, and people were like, they are terrible. I'm like, I don't know. I'm a sucker for I'm a sucker for Stadium Series designs that are out of the box.
You like Easter eggs too.
And I love the Easter eggs. Yeah. I mean, listen, man, I'm old enough to remember when they tried to put lightning on the jerseys. Yeah. And it looked atrocious. And now to come to a point where it's like photorealistic is really, really cool. And I think all the pirate iconography is really cool. I mean, yeah, sure. I probably would have liked the jersey better if they had sold out and just made the shoulder patch the primary logo with the pirate head and stuff. That'd be dope. But I think it looks cool. I don't know. I know a lot of people weren't as crazy about it as I am.
Oh, you should have seen me last night. Everybody was laughing. I was busting Espo's balls so bad because he doesn't like the baby blue. He doesn't like that the Lightning wear blue like the Leafs. He doesn't like that they're called the Bolts. He doesn't like when people say Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas. So I was saying, oh, Phil, look at these jerseys. I just wanted to tell you Happy Holidays, my friend. I love the Bolts. And he was like running after me. You ever get chased by an 84-year-old man? It's definitely fun. I told him
these guys should wear black. They should have the same logo that they wore in 1994, and everybody should dress like Paul Eisenbart.
What are we
I,
doing?
I said, Phil, if you didn't spend so much time drinking with Bobby Hull, you would have scored 730 goals. 717, lazy. You should be embarrassed with yourself.
Don't look like the Leafs. Look like vintage Darren Poopa.
Oh, Manon Riome's walking through that door to help everybody out. Greg, you're the best. Are you coming down for the game, the outdoor game?
I am. Yeah, I'm coming down for the Stadium Series. I'm not covering the Winter Classic, but I'm coming down for the Stadium Series.
Oh, yeah. Nobody wants to go to that one anyway. Baseball fans don't go to that stadium. You think hockey fans are going to go there? Greg Wyshynski, ESPN. Follow him at Wyshynski. Greg, you're the best. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and all the festive stuff. And I'll see you in a couple months, pal. Thank you.
Right back at you. Thanks.
All right, buddy. The great Greg Wyshynski. We could talk for hours about hockey and soccer and wrestling. He's the best. He really is. He's the man. Oh man, you guys should have seen me busting Phil's balls last night. Oh my God. It was so funny. Well, what happened last night was that so the guy from Audibel was there, the guy that owns all the Audibels. And you know, we're always busting Phil's chops because he told me a couple weeks ago, he goes, I am a guy that brought the Lightning here. I've scored 717 goals. And he's like, and all people know about me is I'm the Audibel guy. Bro, it was so funny. I'm like, hey, so now every time I see him, hey, you're the Audibel guy. And he's not a fan of the jerseys because they have baby blue in there. He doesn't like the blue that the Lightning have. They're too close to the Maple Leafs colors. He wanted darker blue or black. He doesn't like that it says TBL. He doesn't like that the team is called Bolts. He doesn't like that the Lightning don't shoot the puck. So all of those different things last night, he doesn't like when people say happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas. So I'm just the whole time, I'm just like, Phil, I just wanted to tell you, I love these jerseys. I love the baby blue. They look like the Rays, don't they? I wish it said Bolts on the front, but I love the TBL and happy holidays to you. And he's looking at me. He's like coming after me, like grab my arm. He's like, you son of a, it was so freaking hilarious. It was a blast. It's never a dull moment with Phil, man. He's the best. But a lot of good stuff from Greg as always. Lightning, Stamkos, Devils, Rangers, wrestling. That's what happens, man. That's what happens when you're joined by the great Greg Wyshynski, ESPN. Follow him on all social media platforms. Nobody better than him. Let me tell you about my friends over at Honest Hammer Custom Builders. Again, they signed on for 2026. Let's take a look at the websites today. The Honest Hammer. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. All right, there we go, folks. TheHonestHammer.com for all your residential and commercial needs. 813-244-0956. I mean, look at the bottom here. Honest Hammer, General Contractor Company, CGC 153116. TheHonestHammer.com. Shoot them an email. TheHonestHammer@gmail.com. Tell them that you heard it right here on the Recher podcast. Here's some new pictures from the custom builds that they have. Look, unbelievable, man. Holy smokes. I love how they're updating these pictures every couple of weeks. Custom home renovations, interior, kitchen, bathroom, office. You got one of the rooms in your house. You just, God, man, I don't like the way it looks. Honest Hammer is the way to go. Again, mention that you heard it right here on the Recher podcast. Get a discount. They also do stuff for first responders. Bathroom, kitchen remodels, interior and structural renovations, new and commercial constructions. You look at the beautiful things that they have in there. He's a Team Tampa Bay guy. USF grad, just an awesome human being. If you want somebody that's going to work on your home, remember, it's not just your house, it's your home. Your family's going to live there. The Honest Hammer is the way to go. And then of course, our other partners, our friends at EverHealth, everhealth.com. These guys, or everhealth.org, excuse me, 17 different locations in Pinellas County. Health Center Program grantee under 42 USC 254B and deemed a public health service employee under 42 USC 233GN. It is an FTCA deemed facility covered by professional liability insurance through our enrollment in Federal Tort Claims Act program. 17 different locations in Pinellas County. They got everything, man. Primary care, pediatrics, dental. I went over there for some of my inflammation with Dr. Rodriguez. check them out. Everything from the cradle to the grave. They have a sliding scale for the uninsured. They take any kind of insurance there. This is the new kind of healthcare that we really should be promoting, and this is the kind of thing that we need in this country. 17 different locations again in Pinellas. I went to the High Point one there on 58th Street. Dr. Carlos Rodriguez works there. Every single person that I chatted with in the building there, just salt of the earth type people. They, whatever they can do to help you, you just feel like a member of the family when you walk in there. Everhealth.org. Tell them that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast. All right, our guy Ira Kaufman from Joe Bucs Fan is going to join us at 1:15 today on the program. All right, so what's going on tonight? What is going on tonight is the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Cup. Now, people say, oh, the NBA Cup, and oh, you shouldn't be proud of this, and blah, 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 blah. I don't quite understand why people are getting so bent out of shape for teams and players celebrating this. Obviously, there is a financial element to it, and I know that there's a lot of the players on the back half of these rosters. Like, this could be a big deal for a lot of the guys at the bottom of the roster. NBA players make a ton of money. Listen, you're not going to turn it down. You're going to love making that money, that's for sure. But, and you guys know me being a big soccer fan, anytime that you can play for something, anytime there's stakes, and not the steaks that you're going to put on the grill, but stakes, a reason to go play a sport, play a game. There's some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think that's a bad thing whatsoever. And in soccer, this is one of my favorite things about soccer. You're playing in the Premier League, but if you finish in the top 4, top 5, let's say in the Premier League, you can play in the Champions League. You finish the next 2, you can play in the Europa League. You finish in the next one, you play in the Europa Conference League. But as those are going on, you also have the FA Cup and you have the League Cup as well. And those are cup competitions that are for all of the different levels of soccer in England. So you could see, and we spoke about this a couple of months ago, when Manchester United lost to Grimsby, yeah, it was horrible and embarrassing, and the pitch was so dark and it was terrible. But like, think about that. Those fans of Grimsby Town, they're going to love that they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. Those guys will probably never play in the Premier League, but it's something to play for. Crystal Palace, a team that really hasn't won anything. And one of the most famous fans and supporters of Crystal Palace is the lovely Rebecca Lowe, who is going to be working for, I think, Fox for the World Cup. Crystal Palace beat Manchester City in the FA Cup final. They're not going to win the Premier League. They're not going to make the Champions League, but they won the FA Cup, one of the oldest tournaments in all of sports in the world. That goes on during the season. It's something to play for. It's stakes. Don't tell those people it doesn't mean anything. When the NBA, who has become more international, has more European players, added the NBA Cup, and those games count towards your regular season, and if you get bounced out early, they have flexibility to give you another game against other teams. That's how we were able to watch the Knicks and the Celtics in Boston a couple of years ago. I think this is one of the best ideas that we've seen in sports in the last 20 years. It's not added. It's not just an in-season tournament that is going to take away from the regular season. The games count towards your – and you add the stakes. What's one of the biggest things that people hate about basketball? They hate load management. They hate guys don't take the regular season serious. Well, here's a solution. And the players seem to like it. They care about it. And you're playing some of these rivalry games early on, and then you get matchups between two good teams, and stars are going to be out. Like, this is a big deal. I don't care what anybody says. Is it the same thing as a championship? No, of course not. But why is it such a bad thing for people to be proud of something like this? I think it's just so weird. And it goes back to my whole argument of, Pete, we're such a, like, in this rough and tough butch stage of like, oh, well, we can, no moral victories, no silver linings, and blah, 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 blah. All right. Well, okay. That's weird. You're so tough. Like you're too tough to be proud. Like that's just the dumbest shit ever. You sound like a child. Where it's like, oh, it's too cool to care. Like I think that's one of the worst things we could teach our children. One of the worst things you could teach the kids out there is that it's too cool to care. Oh yeah, I don't care. Like there's nothing wrong with giving a shit. I wish more people gave a shit in this world. I wish more people gave a shit about what they do and what they say and how they treat people. Instead, people are living la la land, staring at their phones like this the whole freaking time. That's what you want? That's what you want? That's better? Get lost. I like the NBA Cup. I do, and I think this matchup tonight is going to be a good one. You got the Knicks. You got the Spurs. We'll see. It looks like they're managing Wemby's minutes. Could he be coming off the bench? We'll see. Harrison Barnes has been a solid pro. We'll see what Harper, the rookie, what he does. I like Stephon Castle. I mentioned this on the show yesterday, the way that he was able to go in there and defend Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Very impressive. Very impressive because not many people have been able to do that. Shai, the defending MVP, obviously an NBA champion. That means a lot. That means a lot. So for Stephon Castle to be able to bring it on the defensive end, I was impressed. Very impressed. This game is going to come down to when Wemby gets in the game, how this entire thing, this game is going to come down to when Wemby's in the game, how they defend him. Because are they going to guard him with Karl Anthony Towns one-on-one? I don't know. Mitchell Robinson is going to have to play a lot. I think he's the guy. Are you going to throw Huck Portal in there? A guy that can maybe give you some fouls? Like, you're almost defending Wemby like you defended Shaq back in the day. You have big guys in the game, maybe that just kind of rough him up a little bit, maybe just make his life a living hell. The way that Mike Brown is going to deploy his big men is going to tell you all you need to know about this game tonight. And then, of course, with Stephon Castle guarding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's probably going to be the guy that's going to go and try to guard Jalen Brunson. And if you see, I'm rocking it right here, baby. Jalen Brunson in the house. You already know what time it is. Is Tyler Kolek going to be able to step up? Because as my guy Eddie says, missing Miles McBride and Landry Shamet. Can you get Tyler Kolek to give you some good minutes? Are you going to be able to have a guy like Mikal Bridges handle the ball with the second team? And that's what they're trying to figure out with this club. Who is going to be able to score the basketball when Jalen Brunson is not on the court? Now, one of the best signings in the offseason was the Knicks going out and getting an absolute bucket in Jordan Clarkson. He's a guy that can come off the bench. He can give you 18. His defense is actually better than I thought it was. I mean, some of these guys that come off the bench and all they do is score. And I think back to the last couple of years with Lou Williams and Jamal Crawford, and they'll just like, all right, well, their defense isn't. Sometimes their defense, they don't get enough credit. But you look at these guys in, Mikal Bridges, and I like their starting five. And that's the thing you got to like about the Knicks. I mentioned this last year. When you have a starting five of Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Karl Anthony Towns, I mean, maybe Cat's a little bit too much for everybody. But how do they work this into? I'm so intrigued by this game. 8:30 tonight on Amazon Prime. I'm going to be watching some of the Bucs thing later on today after I get some lunch. I hope the Knicks win, man. They haven't won a championship since, 73? That's the one team that I want to win a championship more than any, as far as the teams that I grew up watching. My dad's a big basketball fan. My uncle as well. Like, the Knicks were just the 90s Knicks, even like the runs the last couple of years with Jalen Brunson. We'll see, man. We'll see. But it's going to be a hell of a game. And I love what the Spurs have brought to the table. Everybody was looking at the Western Conference, and obviously the Thunder have been fantastic. They've only lost 2 games this year, and When you have KD go to the Rockets with Ime Udoka and a lot of those young guys, you got to really enjoy with that. I love Alperen Şengün. You can't forget about a team like the Nuggets with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, former champions themselves, and Minnesota with Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle, and of course Ant-Man as well. And who knows about the Warriors and the Lakers and the Clippers? Like, there's a lot of good teams out west. But if I'm going against the Spurs, like, how do you match up? I mean, we saw it with the Thunder. The Thunder are so versatile. They have so many different players. But even though they have Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein in the middle, like, they were guarding him with Jalen Williams. And they have Jalen Williams, they have Lou Dort, they have Shea, they have Cruz, they have a lot of guys. But they really couldn't solve the equation of Victor Wembanyama. Can the Knicks do it tonight? And this goes back, because remember, I still dislike the Spurs because of what happened back in '99 when the Knicks had an improbable run to the finals, and then they get there and they're facing Tim Duncan and David Robinson. That was not a good matchup for the Knicks whatsoever. That was not the same team later or earlier that year with the Knicks. So I want this one. I want this one tonight. I want to see the Knicks come away with the victory. Jalen Brunson, Mr. Clutch, they have to move the basketball. When the Knicks are good, and that's the problem, even with Tom Thibodeau, when they get stuck with just watching Jalen Brunson, and before him, it was just stuck watching Julius Randle, when they move the basketball, I think that's where their advantage lies. They have to move the basketball. They got to get guys involved. I want to see, check out Mikal Bridges if he's hitting those mid-range shots, if OG Anunoby's playing good defense, steals, coming away with the threes, and Karl Anthony Towns being Karl Anthony Towns. I'd like to see them. And when they played them earlier this year, one of the things that the Knicks did really well is they went at Wemby. And it's tough because he's the block master. He's incredible. The way that he alters shots, even if guys don't shoot, you can see them go in the lane, and against any other center, they'll probably go up, but they'll peel back, man. Like they just made a wrong turn. They're like, I don't want any of that. And Karl Anthony Towns and everybody was going, you got to go at the body. And sometimes you have to let him almost block your shot early on in the game just to prove to him that there's no fear. There's no fear going to the basket and have him pick up some fouls. Never had a chance. Tibbs was so bad. Listen, I don't think he was as bad as people say. The big thing with Tibbs was that I couldn't stand was he just didn't use enough players. He didn't use his bench. And you look at the Thunder and you look at some of the best teams in sports, across all sports. And I know basketball is different, but there's a versatility. There's an inability, there's an ability to be able to beat teams in different ways. And we've spoken about this with the Lightning in years past. You can win a game 1-0. You can win a game 5-4. We spoke about this a couple weeks ago when it came to the Rams. And they spoke on, Sunday Night Football, about how the defense with Shula, they use so many different players. That's what good teams do. Look at the Dodgers using all of these different players. And you can go to Miggy Rojas and how big of a change that was, where Paez was the guy that was the center fielder and Edmund was playing second. And then you need to switch it up. You put Edmund in center. You put Paez at, you put Miggy Rojas at second, and that helps them win the World Series. You got to be versatile. You can't just beat teams one way. They're eventually going to get you. So I'm excited for that. And for all those people that are bitching and moaning about the NBA Cup and all these different things, like, there's nothing wrong with having stakes. There's nothing wrong with having a reason to try to win a game. You're bitching and moaning about load management and that these guys don't care. Now you give them a reason to care and people still don't like it. People like that, they're just going to bitch. We know it's not the same thing as the World Championship. We know it's not the same thing as the Larry O'Brien Trophy. We get it. Jesus Christ almighty. Holy smokes. But again, I've given you the example. In soccer, Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup. Go tell Rebecca Lowe and go tell those Crystal Palace fans that FA Cup didn't mean anything. Go tell them that it's not the same thing as the Premier League trophy, so they shouldn't celebrate. Go tell them. Go ahead. Go tell Man City when they won the treble. winning the Champions League, winning the Premier League, winning the FA Cup, that it didn't matter. Go tell them. Go tell Manchester United in 1999 when they won all three, that it's not a big deal. Those cup competitions, just because we're not used to it in our country, doesn't mean that they're full of shit. I think it's a good idea. And I think over time, it's going to gain more traction and more steam. Bro, only one team wins the championship at the end of the year. Why is it such a bad thing for somebody else to celebrate in the middle of the season? I don't understand that. And it's not a consolation prize. It's not a participation trophy. You earn the damn thing. You got to go out and play games. You go out there and you win this tournament, and you get denoted as an NBA Cup champion. I don't see what the big deal is. It's just this fake bravado and fake ego that people are just so worried of silver linings and moral victories. They're just, it's a shot to their manhood. This is not the same thing as a participation trophy. This is not the same thing as like, oh, we're just trying to make everybody feel good. No, you have to earn it. You don't get it given to you. You don't deserve it. You earn this shit. It's fun. I like it. My kids love it. There you go. I don't see. Yeah, I'm looking for more reasons. And this is what I don't get about sports, right? We watch sports as an escape from reality. We watch sports for entertainment. We want to have fun. We wanted to invoke emotions. That's why we watch sports. And if you're going to watch sports and you're going to find reasons to bitch and moan and complain about it, like, go do something else. I don't watch science. I don't watch nature shows and then complain about them. I don't care. I'm going to stick with what I like, and it's sports. And especially when I'm talking Buccaneers with my good pal, Ira Kaufman from Joe Bucs Fan, the sage, the guy that's all over the Raise the Flags documentary. Kaufman, you look good, buddy. You look good on the silver screen there, buddy. How are you?
Hey, Jay, you'll notice that half the time I've got a red shirt on and the other half I've got a sports coat on. That should tell you immediately that I sat down with these guys 2 different times, once for 5 hours. Then they told me to come back the next week. I go, are you kidding me? I said, by the way, you know where I'm speaking to you from, JR?
Where are you?
I'm in John Gruden's lair.
No way.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Unbelievable.
And I just ran some Hall of Fame potential picks past John because I wanted to get his opinion. And, you know, who better to weigh in on Drew Brees than John Gruden, right? So there you go. Jay, did you know, and I'm sure you did, that if the Saints, if the Panthers would have taken care of business, Jay, against the Saints, that the Bucs could have been facing elimination this week in Charlotte with 2 games remaining? I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that because a month ago, that would have sounded preposterous.
Unbelievable what this could be one of the more disappointing seasons in Buccaneers history, or they could make the playoffs. Like, it's weird. Like, they're so tipping on either side of this entire thing, Ira. And, you know, you guys at Joe Bucs Fan put up a story on Tristan Wirfs in his comments, and I appreciate the love because I posted the video up there, and he was pissed. He was heated after that loss. What do you make of the after effects of that loss? How Baker took it, how Bowles took it, how Tristan Wirfs took it. Are they mad enough? Or is there energy in the right place? Ira, what do you make after that game?
I think what troubles me the most, Jay, besides the play on the field, besides the Kirk Cousins ripping them again and no pass rush, Jay, a month ago, we would have never been talking about cracks in the locker room, little fissures that are going on, people talking about accountability. I mean, I thought this culture was beyond reproach, Jay. Jason Light talked about it. They all love each other and this and that, and we've never seen a team this tight. And now, Jay, there's things going on. I mean, people are chirping at each other on the sidelines. Post-game tirade by Bowles with the F-bombs. I think that was manufactured a little bit just to try to get to players. And, Jay, the one thing that really struck me about Bowles' post-game was when he said, we as coaches have done all we can do. Now it's up to the players. I mean, who says that? Who says that?
Not good. And you know where I am at the end of every game. I go down 5 minutes early, and I see who comes off the field first. I've been doing that for 11 years. You watch me. You see me down there. And when the ball's barely through the uprights, and we see Bucky, Rashad, Sean Tucker, and Mike Evans off the field quicker than a hiccup, and then Mike mumbling, 3rd and 28, 3rd and 28. I'm like, this isn't that strong, cohesive locker room that we're used to. And then I'm listening to Todd Bowles say that, and you know what it reminded me of, Ira, and you were in the room. Remember when Dirk Cutter says, I don't know what I got to do to fix this. I mean, is Bowles a dead man walking? Is he a lame duck candidate here, Ira? I feel like that was kind of a last dash type of thing that he said, and it was hard for me not to walk out of that room thinking I just heard a similar, press conference to what I heard from Dirk Cutter years ago.
It's hard to imagine that Bowles could be in this much trouble, Jay, but this is the reality. Jay, if he doesn't win the division and you lose out to the Carolina Panthers, who was supposed to win 5 games this year with a young quarterback, and you got Mayfield, whether Mayfield's 90% or 70, whatever, you still got Mayfield, and they got Bryce Young. Jay, if they don't win the division to the Carolina Panthers and you're the Glazers, I mean, you got to think about what's going on. I'll tell you the one thing that people mention, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. You can't have the Glazers go to Todd Bowles and say, you got to replace the defensive coordinator because, Jay, at that point, why are you sticking with Todd Bowles? Right. Jay, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't see that happening. You either stick with Bowles and say, we've been injured beyond belief this year. You still won 8 or 9 games, and we're going to give you another chance. You'll obviously he'd enter 2026 on the hot seat. But, Jay, if they don't win the division and they go 8 and 9, that's a regression. It's a serious regression. And unless Jason Light stands up and pounds the table for Todd Bowles, and I think that's an open question, Jay, right, whether he would do that.
Yeah, I think we have a problem in this scenario, too. This is a conversation that you and I have had in the past, and this is when Lovie Smith was here. If you are a guy that hangs your hat on something specific as a coach, if you're a baseball coach and you say, hey, I'm a small ball team, and you guys can't bunt, that's a problem, Ira. If you're a hockey team and you say, hey, man, we're a high-scoring offense, and you rank 29th in the league in goals, that's a problem. If you're a guy that people say is a defensive guru, and listen, I know they've had their fair share of injuries, but Vea's been out there, Levante's been out there, Antoine Winfield Jr. has been out there. They've had guys in there. We see depleted teams all across the National Football League. I look at Todd Bowles' team. If you're a defensive guy, you can't be that bad. I mean, how much do you put on Bowles and his lack of adjustments? How much do you look at the players? How much do you put on Jason Light not giving them enough resources? I don't know if anybody's devoid of blame here.
I think you're making a tremendous point, Jay. If the offense was the problem, I think Bowles has an exit ramp. Right. Jay, that's an exit ramp. But, the offense looked pretty darn good against Atlanta. Not great, but pretty darn good. I mean, they had 28 first downs, 28 points. Well, what more do you want? And I wish Bucky Irving was running the ball a little better, Jay. That bothers me a little bit. I don't expect an average 5.5 yards a carry again, but 4.2 would be nice, and he's not doing that. But anyway, Jay, I think part of the problem, and I think this guy is skating a little bit in Jason Light. Now, look, Jay, he's a very good drafter. The last 5 years, he learned his lesson, and he self-scouted and said to himself, the guys that I drafted and didn't make it, what's the common denominator? And he came up with, they don't love football enough. And I think that's a great move on Jason Light. So he changed. And, there were guys that he didn't even put on the board because he didn't think they were good locker room guys. All right. Having said that, Jay, I look at the front seven. Granted, Cansey got hurt again, and now he's a question mark going forward in terms of a big contract extension. But, Jay, you look at the front seven. Levante's not the same player. He's still good, but not great, not elite. Jay, I don't see it. Every thing you can say about Bowles and his system, and it's soft, and it is. I don't see a front seven there. I see Braswell, and I see Logan Hall, and I see Reddick, and Greg Gaines. It's not good enough, Jay. That's not good enough. And I think it's been a hole in Jason Light's resume, and I think they're going to have to address it. There's no pass rush here, Jay. There's just no pass rush.
And that's where does Jason need to make another adjustment? Because the Buccaneers went out and got Simeon Rice years ago, and I feel like we get so falling in love with Jason Light loves his picks. Let's not forget, Ira, it's so weird that it was less than 5 years ago, whatever. They won the Super Bowl in 2020 with Brady and Gronk and AB and JPP and Ndamukong Suh. None of those guys you drafted. Leonard Fournette, you didn't draft him. That's 6 huge proponents of the team that you didn't draft. So I feel like we've fallen in love so much of the draft picks. Bro, sometimes you have to use multiple resources to fulfill your roster, right? Free agency, trades. It can't just be through the draft because you're drafting guys and you don't have a good track record of getting pass rushers. Sometimes you got to go out and you got to trade for a guy or sign a guy. Even when you do it, it hasn't worked. They got to do something different, no?
And Jay, we don't know what the conversation was between Bowles and Light at the trade deadline, but the fact is they basically threw up their hands and said to the rest of the league, we're good. We're good to go the way we have it. And I think they're going to end up regretting it. Jay, I hope I'm wrong. You hope you're wrong. But if things don't go well the next 3 weeks, and I don't think it's beyond the realm that they lose all 3 games, Jay, I don't think that's crazy. I mean, to pack it in, I hope not. But they didn't do anything at the trade deadline, Jay, and I think in retrospect that's going to bite them in the butt.
Yeah, and you mentioned Bucky Irving. I think part of the reason, too, when we heard this from, remember, Liam Cohen before the season last year, he said it's not easy to have a 3 running back system because guys, and they always want to talk about riding the hot hand. Well, if a guy does well on the first drive and then you go to the next guy, you're not riding the hot hand. And now we're going to the red zone. They're not putting Bucky in the red zone anymore. It's Sean Tucker in the red zone, it looks like. Rashad's the change of pace guy, and you're not putting the ball in Bucky's hands. Now, partially is because he does get hurt, but what kind of familiarity are you going to have? What kind of rhythm are you going to have as a running back when you have 3 guys? Liam Cohen told us about this before last season. I think we're starting to see that come to fruition now. What's your assessment of Baker Mayfield and his play, whether he's not 100% or not? You see him standing on the sidelines. You see him not as fiery. He's inaccurate with the football. He's throwing bad passes at the worst time. Like, as good as he was playing early on in the season, and I think people are a little afraid to say it because they think it'll make him look hypocritical, but Baker Mayfield, regardless if he's injured or not, has not been nearly good enough in the last 6 weeks, Ira.
Fair point, Jay. Yeah, I think he's hurt, Jay. I think he's hurt more than we realize, more than he'd acknowledge. I hope I'm wrong, but it's starting to look a little bit like his last year with the Browns. I mean, when he tried to – now, this injury's not as bad. That was a bad injury. And the Browns left it up to Baker Mayfield. Hey, do you want to play? Yeah, I want to play. And he was totally ineffective. And I think that was the year after he led him to the playoffs.
Yeah,
and a big victory in Pittsburgh, putting up a big number. So sometimes you can't leave it up to the player. Here's the problem, Jay. Do we really want to see Teddy Bridgewater out there? No. So Mayfield doesn't look like himself. You're right. The last 5 weeks, I think he's got the same number of interceptions as touchdowns, 54% completion. Jay, this is a guy that was in the MVP chase after 5-6 weeks, wasn't he? So now some fans are starting to say, well, wait a minute. I don't know if I want to throw a big contract extension. And maybe here's the problem, Jay. What options do the Bucs have?
Yeah.
What leverage do the Bucs have? They don't have a young quarterback that they're grooming under Baker Mayfield. This draft is not a quarterback-rich draft, Jay. So I think Mayfield's got all the leverage here going forward.
Ira, I want to go back to Todd Bowles real quick before we talk about the raise the flags thing. Do you think, Todd, as far as this team and the regression, what worries you more? The locker room stuff, the team swooning again in the middle of the season for what, the 3rd, 4th straight year, or the defense? What worries you more about Todd?
My biggest worry is that they got to get some pieces to develop a pass rush. And Jay, you've been watching football a long time, not as long as me, but and Jay, I'll take an average secondary with a ferocious pass rush rather than have Revis and Deion Sanders back there, and all of a sudden Kirk Cousins got 9 seconds to throw the ball.
Right.
He's going to find people, Jay. You got to put these people under duress. They can't do it. I mean, Bowles is trying this blitz. He's trying that. He's trying to play cover 2. I don't think he knows what to do at this point, Jay, with the front 7. I keep coming back to it. So the locker room will come around if they can win some freaking games. But, Jay, losing to the Saints and the Falcons back-to-back at home during a playoff drive, that is inexcusable. That's kind of the definition of being inexcusable to me. It really is.
Well, why do you bring in JPP then, Ira? That's to me, and I've talked about it with our good buddy Ian Beckles. Like, Larry Foote's up there, and he's like, we're bringing him because we need juice, we need energy, we need accountability. Dude, if we're at this point of the season and you don't have the horses in the locker room and you don't have the coaches to be able to light a fire under some of these guys, and you have to go to a guy that's played just as much football as me and you, Ira, in the last 18 months. Like, I love JPP, appreciate him. You understand it, but you don't have to like it. Like that, to me, this is a huge red flag. Why the hell do you think bringing JPP in here is going to make the difference? Whether it's on the field or off the field, what does that tell us about the makeup of this team if they're going and resorting to that move?
It does scream desperation, Jay. I can't argue with you about that. I think he's here as much to rile up the troops with some juice than he is to, sack Bryce Young. And I think he's going to play Sunday in Charlotte, Jay. I don't know what you think.
Yeah,
I think he's here to play. And, maybe he falls into a sack. We'll see. I don't know what kind of football shape he's in. But, Jay, you're right. It is desperate. It is a last resort move. And like you said, if you need artificial means to stir up your team, that's not a good look. That's not a good look.
All right. Before I let you go, because I know you're at Gruden's lair there, just take us through I'm like three and a half episodes in. I'm actually finishing it today. But Ira, to be able to see this entire history of this team, like, man, because you and I were like, we didn't grow up here, and I don't remember the Bo Jackson and Steve Young thing so as vividly. And I'm watching them, and I'm like, oh my God! Like, if that happened during the era of social media, like that would have been way bigger than it really is right now. But man, to see the Buccaneers and to see the Glazers come in, and me with the Glazers, my love that I have for them for Manchester United. Man, what was like your biggest takeaway from the whole Raise the Flags documentary, because it was so well done?
I've gotten to know Trent Cooper, the director, pretty well, Jay, in the last year. And of course, I did sit down twice. Rick Stroud sat down, Scott Reynolds. And he did a fabulous job. Jay, for your listeners who haven't seen this documentary, you're doing yourself a disservice. They skirted a few things, Jay. They skirted a few things. The end of the Josh Freeman era, it's not really discussed. The pursuit of Brett Favre, of which I was in the middle of in 2008. But I understand that. But the fact is, the guy, he did 100 interviews. Jay, he had an unlimited budget. I think he went over it. He had an unlimited budget. If they want to talk to John Lynch, they flew out to San Jose. I mean, that's what they did. They want to talk to McKay, they go up to Atlanta. They got a lot of people. And there was some, Steve Young was great talking about Bo Jackson and the night they went to dinner with him and Culverhouse. And Culverhouse was talking to the maitre d'. And meanwhile, Bo Jackson said, I said to Steve Young, I'm not coming here. And Steve Young said, what are you doing here at the dinner then? My agent told me, take a free dinner off Culverhouse and Burns Steakhouse. But he said, I'm not coming here. And so there's a lot of great nuggets. Jay, I thought one of the most emotional parts of it was this 5-minute tribute to a woman named Jill Hobbs, who I don't know if you got to know her at all, Jay. She was the executive secretary for the general manager. I knew her well. If you want to know what was going on behind the scenes, you talk to Jill Hobbs. She passed away a couple of days before the NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field. And it's very emotional. You haven't gotten to that yet. I think it's episode 9. So, Jay, when you see me the rest of the way, that's what your fast forwards for. You just go right through me, baby.
Never, buddy, never. Hey, before I let you go real quick, I got a great story for you. I got from Phil Esposito. This is one I don't think you ever heard of. Who is the first person to tell Phil Esposito that he was crazy for trying to bring hockey to Florida? And it was none other than the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays.
Wow.
After Phil and his buddy beat Willie Mays and Donald Trump in a round of golf up in New York. What?
That is tremendous, Jake. That is tremendous.
I go, Phil, and he's just so, comments, it's just like, yeah, I was playing with Willie Mays and Donald Trump, and I'm like, wait a second, what did you just say? He goes, yeah, the first person that told me I was crazy for bringing hockey to Florida was Willie Mays. And he's like, Willie paid my buddy and Trump paid me with a check. I go, what kind of story is that, man? He just all right. I'll see you.
That's why we love number 7, Jake. That's why we love number 7.
He's the best, and that's why we love you, the great Ira Kaufman, the sage, our Hall of Fame voter, Joe Bucs fan. Make sure you follow my friends, joebucksfan.com, iKaufman76. Ira, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas. I love you, my friend. Thank you so much, and we'll see you before we know it, man. Have fun at Gruden's house.
Stay healthy in 26, baby. See ya.
See ya. The great Ira Kaufman. He is the man. We love Ira, man, and our friends at Joe Bucs Fan, Steve and Lee and the whole crew over there. They are the best. JoeBucksFan.com. Go check them out. My Tristan Wirfs video they put up there. You gotta go watch the Raise the Flags documentary. I'm actually gonna go watch it right now. It's incredible. Ira's the man, the best. Listen, you want to talk about the history of the game, the history of the Buccaneers, and we have some great conversations over the years. So I'm just so blessed to be able to get to know a guy like Ira Kaufman. He's the man. And, married at Fox Hollow, too, baby. You got to love it. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me today, guys. I love you all. Remember, tomorrow we're going to start a little bit later on the program. We'll start at probably around 1:30 or so. Again, I have an event early in the morning, and it actually got moved back, but I have to go. I got to help out my people. All right, big thank you to Ira Kaufman, the man. Big thank you to Greg Wyshynski, ESPN. We love those guys. Follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Those guys, and just everybody that has supported me. I appreciate you guys so much. A big thank you to Honest Hammer. Big thank you to EverHealth. And a big thank you to you. Remember, we'll be on around 1:30 tomorrow. Man, we got 3 more shows left of the year. Friday, top 20 sports stars in Tampa Bay. Don't forget that. I love you all. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Jay Recher Podcast.